Hello and welcome to True Nature's video podcast. My name is Mish Masters, and over this series of interviews I'll be chatting to adopters who are going to share their stories with you and to industry professionals on all things relative to living with Romanian and foreign rescue dogs. The True Nature podcast is sponsored and hosted by The Dog's Point of View, where you can find resources and online courses and programs all created specifically for adopters of foreign rescue dogs and for trainers and canine professionals working with foreign rescue dogs. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy the show. Awesome. Hello and welcome to our next True Nature podcast. So today I'm excited to be chatting to Doreen Potter of A2B Dog Training. Welcome, Doreen. It's great to have you here.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good, thank you. So our paths have crossed, Doreen, haven't they? Because you joined my Romanian Rescue Pros trainer program. But I'm really looking forward to our chat this morning because obviously as I've gotten to know you on that program, you're not only a trainer, you've also gotten heavily involved in the rescue side of things, haven't you? So you've got some real boots on the ground from Romania stuff and experiences to share with everyone this morning, haven't you? Which I think
I have, yeah,
really valuable. So just to kick off, I'm just going to run through for everyone's benefit a little bit about you. So obviously, as I mentioned, you run A2B Dog Training and you're based in Gosforth, is it, up in the beautiful Lake District?
Yeah, so right on the west coast of Cumbria.
What an amazingly beautiful part of the country. I am actually so jealous. And you do one-to-one in-person work and you also run classes from there, don't you?
I do, yeah. I've got a right mix mash of everything, but mainly working with nervous, anxious dogs.
Yeah, so I did pick up, you kind of specialize. I know that you've got some puppy programs that you run, haven't you? Who doesn't love the puppies? But yeah, that you kind of specialize with nervous dogs and also dogs that struggle with isolation or separation distress.
Yeah, separation anxiety. Yeah, it's quite relevant to anxious and nervous dogs. It's
absolutely
right
absolutely in there. It all kind of comes as a bit of a package, doesn't it? Fabulous. So I know that today we're going to chat about your experiences with your own adopted Romanian dogs, one beautiful girl we can see in this picture here, as well as how you ended up getting involved in rescue and obviously sharing with us what it's like out in Romania, in the flesh from your visits out there, which I think is going to be so valuable to people listening. So I guess let's start off with how you came to get involved with the foreign rescue dogs in the first place and introduce us to this beautiful girl here.
Yeah, this is when I first saw this picture, it spoke to me, and I'm sure lots of other people say the same thing, but she was literally looking at me when I looked at this picture. And I just wanted to know more. I was deeply involved with collies. I worked with collies. I taught classes with collies. I competed in obedience, and I don't know, there was just something about it. So I found out more about this little dog and found out she was based in Romania. And this was way back in 2014, where it was really, it still is serious, but so serious over there. I couldn't believe what was going on in how can people treat dogs like this? So I set about finding out about it. I set about how to adopt her, and I wanted to bring her home. I hadn't got a clue. I honestly did not have a clue about what was involved. So Roma started, she was reserved, and there was 10 dogs they were rescuing from a kill shelter, and they managed to get them out of the kill shelter into like a foster place where they were fed and checked and spayed, neutered. That's what the photographs are showing, where she was spayed and everything and looked after until she came home, which is absolutely fantastic. So in that really, really cold January, way back then, Roma started her journey, and bless her, it took over 5 days.
Oh my word.
Because things were so much slower even then. Nowadays it sort of takes about maybe 2 days to get them right from one end to the other, but
unless they hit problems, I think it's
unless they hit problems. It took her 5 days coming over, and it was January, so you can imagine. And I actually sat waiting for her in Carlisle, which is an hour and a half's drive away from me. And it was delayed and delayed, and I ended up staying in this car park for 10 hours.
Oh my word.
Before she came to me, and out came this, bless her, smelly, smaller than I thought she was, petrified little dog.
Yeah.
And I brought her home. So that was Roma's start.
You had some other dramas to deal with on her arrival, though, as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
Our next slide, you're going to
I'll
tell
just
us
go on
about.
to the next one.
Tell us about your boy.
So there you are. My Alexa's just set off. I must have, excuse me a minute. Alexa, stop. I must have said something set off. This is Ty. I had collies all my days. I trained them. I trained classes. I worked obedience. I spent years and years and years with my collies, having 7 in the house at one time, including a litter of puppies, which I forgot to mention. And you know, over the years, the collies passed on and things, and I ended up with no dogs, and I thought I can't do no dogs. And I thought I was really, really interested in rescue. I wanted to do my bit. I wanted, you know, I didn't want a puppy again. Let's see. And husband said, I really fancy a German Shepherd. Okay, so I started looking, and I found Ty, and he was an ex-police dog, bless him. And this is him. But Ty
was handsome.
He was a proper German Shepherd, you know, a proper German Shepherd, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And he failed being a police dog because he couldn't cope with football crowds.
Right.
It was too much for him.
Yeah.
So the poor lad was more or less put out to rest at a very early age. So he would have been about maybe 5 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. So he came to me and he took poorly, bless, just within 3 days of Roma coming home.
Oh.
Went to the vets.
So much stress.
Yeah, went to the vets and they thought he was going to, they thought he had cancer. Well, I had set everything up. I had everything organized. I knew what I was going to do when the dog came home and how I was going to introduce them. And I ended up having a dog that was stapled from his front legs down to his back legs in a huge cage, in a lot of pain. And it was midnight when I brought Roma back.
Yeah, he was terrified, and oh my word.
He was terrified.
But here they are. This is how long after?
Say again, sorry.
So this picture is how long after from?
This
from
is about a week. About a week after. Yeah. In my garden. Yeah.
Both doing well.
He was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. He was such a gentleman with her. She was a snappy, get out of my face, leave me alone. Little
sound familiar at all.
No. And in my experience, I was just letting him. I was watching him, but I was just letting him because he was really good. He was sort of going, oh well, you know. Yeah. And he sort of shook his head and as if said, who do you think you are, little snapper? And he would just sort of walk away. And eventually, as after about a week, she became more accepting.
Yeah.
Because she was going through a lot of trauma. She didn't know
absolutely.
Who she was.
Yeah.
She didn't have a clue.
No.
So in this photograph, I've got quite a large garden, but I made sure she was on a long line in my garden at all times.
Absolutely.
I took her out. Yeah, I took her out on a long line every single time. And it was a lot of fun. And they ended up just the best of pals, really. He was such a role model.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we went on. I'll just skip on to the next one just to let you see what they were like. So this was Ty with actually one of Roma's toys.
So she learned to share.
She learned to share, yeah. And you know, it was quite funny when you saw them starting to adjust to each other. And how, because I used to have this right panic about there's not going to be anything lying about, there's not going to be any issues, no resource guarding, blah blah blah. You know, I set off to really introduce these things very, very slowly.
Yeah.
So luckily I had that knowledge prior. Because it does help, because people don't think about these things.
No, definitely. And then once something's gone wrong and kicked off, then you've got to kind of backtrack to repair the relationship, haven't you?
Huge issues at the beginning, trust issues with everybody. So yeah, so that's gorgeous Ty. So the next one I've got is Ty actually sadly passed away, which was really, really sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
He just deteriorated and he ended up having fits and all sorts. So poor Roma was devastated. absolutely devastated. She never ate. She wouldn't, no interest in her food. And we used to have like a routine, whereas, they get their dinner and Ty always got his first. And
Yeah.
of course, she was waiting for Ty to have his dinner and Ty wasn't there. And she
They
literally
really
would
do
not.
get affected, don't they? As much as we do from losses like
Horrendous. She was so depressed. I'd never seen, I was so upset about her.
yeah.
And I thought the only way I'm going to help her is by getting her a friend.
Yeah.
Okay. So along came another Romanian from the same, not from the shelter, but from a rescue that I knew that worked with the shelter,
Yeah.
who'd found these little pups on a railway line.
Oh,
No mum, nothing.
no.
And there was 4 of them, and she brought them home and looked after them. So this was little Juno.
He's gorgeous.
She
And how is this bottom right picture? Is that Juno with
with
Roma?
Roma.
How
Yeah.
similar are they?
They were like peas in a pod. I couldn't
They
believe it.
look like they're family, don't they?
Yeah, and they weren't supposed to. That wasn't my intention.
He's a right little cracker.
Again, she came over on the transport, and hers was a little bit better this time. A little bit better. It still was 4 days, and out came this, and she was the harness I'd bought for her fitted around her like a medallion. I couldn't believe how small she was. This is one of the things you don't realize. The
No.
dog's size is difficult to judge.
Yeah.
She was tiny. And if you look at my hand there, look at the size. I've never had a small dog in my life. My dogs have always been knee height and above.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever. And I'm looking at this poor little mite who was so skinny, bless her. And I set up an area in my garden that I fenced off with chicken wire.
Yeah.
And I put her in it. And I let Roma out, and all Roma wanted to do was play. She just played.
I was going to say, did they like hit it off straight away?
Straight away. Yeah. I was so, I couldn't believe it. I was thinking I'm going to have all these issues. And they hit it off straight away. And Roma instantly changed from the minute Juno came home.
Oh, love her.
Yeah. And she then became Juno's role model.
Yeah.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
Roma would actually shy at bird sound. She would bolt if she heard something go bang. She would, and she would run for her life. She would literally run for her life.
Yeah.
Any sudden sound, any white vans, men in hats, bicycles, kids, anything, literally anything would make her pure panic. She would just pure panic. So Ty helped her adjust to that, and I couldn't believe how Roma had learned so much.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of helped.
She helped Juno. Yeah.
And fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, even though Juno was a puppy, she was 4 months old. She was still nervous. I think people think it's a puppy, they'll be fine. No, she was really quite nervous.
No,
plus,
definitely not.
Which is quite a sad story. They had to be spayed before they travelled.
Right.
Back then.
Very, very young.
So under 4 months old, she was spayed.
Very young.
And I've since learned that can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
So lucky enough, things have changed now. So poor little Juno came over. She'd had to have a spay operation and came over. So, but it worked out. She was just, the love of my life at times. She was just such a comic. She was.
I think they are. So many of them. They're fantastic characters, and I think it's important. Even when you're in the midst of potential challenges that you're having to kind of address or maybe work through some processes, I think it's really important to take a step back from training and just hang out with this wonderful characters. They all are wonderful characters, and I think we lose sight of a lot of the behaviors, obviously, that we find problematic are normal dog behaviors. This is your dog being a dog.
Yeah, just let them be.
Remember that.
Yeah, let them be.
Yes, it doesn't fit particularly well with our big human world at times, and that can be challenging. But I think it's important to just take a step back and just appreciate this fantastic creature in front of you and the wonderful characters they have, because most of them are really funny.
Yeah, they're just absolute clowns at times, and I've learned so much. Roma's one taught me. She literally, because I've never dealt with a dog that was so scared of life.
Yeah.
So she gave me the confidence, which then of course helped with little Juno coming along.
Absolutely.
So I've gained confidence through having, Roma there as well. So that made a huge difference to me.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, I was in the collie mode, collies, competing, doing obedience and doing all this stuff, always in a positive fashion. But back then, it wasn't as positive as it is now.
No.
So I had to learn. And lucky enough, I had the mindset to understand how dogs' emotions were, even back then, which made a huge difference to their learning.
Yeah,
So
of course.
it really helped. So the next one is, I got so deeply involved in the rescue. So the rescue that I got Roma from needed help. So guess who stepped in and guess who decided? Because I had experience with dogs and things, and I used to teach, I became the rescue backup.
Yeah.
I became the person that everybody got in contact with. I organized home checks. I organized groups that all the people got together and they got in contact with me. If there was any issues, any struggles, it was absolutely fantastic. And it was a constant fundraising effort. So I got involved with the fundraising. And we were having raffles every month, and we were having Christmas things and everything just to save as many dogs as we could, and get them out of the kill shelter. It was a kill shelter.
Yeah.
And there was over 600 dogs in it. So we worked just with that one shelter, really. So we decided to do a road trip.
Yeah.
To Romania. And
in this top picture here, all the food that you took out there and all the
we filled a transit van full of donations of dog food, medical supplies, anything, blankets, dog beds, dog cages, as much stuff as we could, including things for children, because it was October and it was nearly Christmas, and we took things for children as well for their Christmas. And we took some clothing for the elderly people that we knew, that parents that just lived in little shacks. So we did a bit of everything, really. And we set off from Cumbria and drove all the way over the Channel Tunnel and all the way through to Romania, and from one end of Romania to the other. It was
I can imagine it was a very, very much a roller coaster of emotions.
It was fine until we got to Romania. Honestly, it was fine. We were in holiday mode. We were sort of singing and dancing, and it was tiring, but it was fine. We get into Romania, and you've got a checkpoint, so you're literally stopped until everything's checked on you. And the first thing we saw was a dead dog at the side of the road. And you sort of go, silent, literally silent.
I think it is, we're kind of aware. We obviously know what the situation is.
Yeah.
We're aware of how bad the situation is. We read all the stuff, we look at all the stuff, we recognize how bad the situation is, but it's got to be so upsetting to experience that. It's still got to be shock to experience it for real in the flesh.
It was horrendous. So we did actually go into, there was quite a few moments through that journey that we went very, very quiet.
I can imagine.
And we didn't photograph these things. It wasn't, none of the journey was about that.
No.
And we didn't want to be so negative and upset people. It wasn't about upsetting anybody.
No, of course.
It was relative to what we were doing.
Yeah.
So we first of all went to the vet that had worked and rescued our dogs, and we gave him much needed vet equipment and medical supplies.
Yeah.
I met the place where Juno came from, which was, and I saw where she ran about in the garden, and that's huge. When you actually know you're standing there where your little pup came from.
Yeah.
We then went off to the shelter, and wow, that was something else. Yeah.
I can imagine.
It will always stay with me.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, absolutely.
So this is the shelter, and again we'd got enough food, so we'd literally the food we got donated, the majority of it was going to the shelter. Including blankets and things like that. Now, until you're there, you see videos and you hear the dogs bark, until you're there and you're feeling it. It's the feeling it.
Yeah.
You can understand why these blinking dogs have such issues, honestly.
Absolutely. And I think it is, I think it is just so important for adopters to remember this when, you know, when they choose to rescue a dog from a shelter abroad. You know, I know it's not necessarily the case for all of them. You know, there never is this is how it's going to be ever. And I know it's not the case for all of them, but for many of them, you know, this kind of place is the reality. And it is so vital for, you know, for the success of that dog's transition into, you know, a lovely family home environment, that people take on board where these dogs have come from and the life, you know, the life that they are used to up to that point. I did a Facebook post on this a little while back, and I shared it again recently. You know, it's important to remember that it doesn't matter how awful that dog's life was before it, you know, it left to come to you, whether it was trauma, abuse, or starving, or just, you know, poor conditions or whatever. It was still the only life they knew. This was the only life they've known. So if you can imagine, this is all you've known, and then someone takes you out and puts you in a palace and a kingdom, and there's all, do you know what I mean? It's just, even though it's wonderful, the change is just so overwhelming and just so much to deal with. And I think it is really, really important for people to see this and just, again, just take a step back and remember where the dogs have come from, and let them take a beat and just go like, whoa.
Yeah, give them time to just get used to this life. And I used to hear a lot of people say, well, the dogs should be used to other dogs because they're in kennels with them. No, you know, they're forced to be in kennels with other dogs. They don't have to like it.
No. And they probably, a lot of them don't get on the same as if, you know, if you did the same thing forced with people, they wouldn't get on either, but they'd sit there and find a way to deal with it, because that was the reality they had.
They didn't have any choice. And a lot of these dogs in the shelter then were all from dog catchers.
Yeah. So
they would have been dragged into cage. And I saw the dog catchers at work. And as a matter of fact, Roma has no hair and both her back legs and deformed back claws. And they think that's been because where she's been caught with the dog catcher's noose, because they didn't care where the dogs were caught. They didn't care which part of the body. They were literally caught and tipped into a crate and then taken to the shelter. So, you know, little things like this, you can understand why these dogs can have some of these issues they have. Because they're real issues. They're not, you know, they don't make them up. They are real. So in this little one there, the little picture to the right-hand side, that is Wilson, bless him. And there were a lot of dogs like that. You can't actually, in this part he was in, it was really dark. It was an indoor shelter, indoor run, with no natural light. Okay.
I think that's quite common.
That's a camera flash that showed him up, because you couldn't see him otherwise. He was literally, and he got out and he's in a new home, and he just literally shut down. He just sat there with his face to the wall all the time. And I saw that numerous times. Now, the exciting bit about this one again, well, it's not exciting. This was actually the picture to the right with the lady there, Shelley, who drove the bus. That was the indoor shelter that Roma was in.
Right.
And again, I stood at the gate at the shelter in right where she was. That was an amazing feeling. And I look at it and you think, when the lights are out, she was on her own. She wasn't even in amongst other dogs to have comfort from. He was literally on her own in this horrible shelter, a little kennel, the same size as the one you see Winston in. With no bed, as you can see, there's no bed, no comfort, nothing. Okay. And back in 2014, the dogs were actually allowed to die naturally.
Right.
So the shelter was paid for these dogs if they died naturally. Okay. So just normal, you know, death. So what they did was not feed them, or not water them, not give them medical care, and it was classed as dying naturally, because we stopped the cruel euthanasia, because some of the methods they culled them, we just said cull. So again, I didn't want to put the negative things on here, but these are some of the dogs we saw, and we saw mums and puppies in there. So I know that's Barry. So these dogs that were on the bottom there, that was in the indoor shelter as well, which given their dues, they took the mums and puppies, had them indoors rather than outside. But look how thin mum was. Now, she would have been taken off the street and given birth to those puppies in there. Okay. So these puppies would be born frightened. This is one of the things I'm really interested in. So the mums are frightened, puppies are born frightened.
Absolutely.
Which is why people, when they think they've got a 4-month-old puppy, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, no. There can be, well, there can actually be a whole bunch of elements that are impacting on that, can't they? I mean, obviously, one of the most significant being if the mum is experiencing trauma or abuse or fear, excessive fear, it is transmitted to the puppies inside. It's
so they're born fearful. They're literally born fearful.
Yeah.
And people forget that, they're getting we'll be fine, it's a 4-month-old puppy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same is course for, of course, oh my goodness, it's the same for any puppies anywhere relative to these puppies in this country. If you've got dogs who are being bred from and it's not a nice environment, or the mother is abused, then it's the same thing applies to all dogs. If
and people breeding from a nervous fit. Yeah, people, they'll have a nervous dog and they'll still have puppies from it, and the puppies
Absolutely.
So it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So these, people just forget that 4-month-old puppies, they shouldn't be like that. Yes, they can be.
Yeah.
And when you see the situations like that, you can understand why.
Absolutely.
They're born into that, and that's what the life is.
Yeah.
So visiting the shelter was a wow moment.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was a wow moment. But it was really good for me because it made me accept my dogs more. I don't know if that makes sense, but I
absolutely. No, I did. Yeah, I definitely get that.
Accepted how they were, and I was so proud of how far they'd come.
It helps to acknowledge, like you say, who they are as well as where they've come from, and also maybe letting go of some of our expectations in terms of what we expect those dogs to be able to to handle, to deal with. I'm not saying that they can't. Again, you can't put an umbrella either way. Some dogs, when you ask the questions, they'll go, yeah, do you know what, I can do that.
Yeah.
But it's important to accept that there will be some that can't, and they'll be like, I literally can't cope with what you're asking of me. So
before I go on to this one, poor little Juno that we'd mentioned getting spayed at 4 months. Within a year she had developed really severe, we thought it was her knees that gone, but it was actually her hips that were pushing her knees. And that was due to all the research. It was due to her getting spayed too early. So she developed wrong. She'd grown wrong. And I had to she had 3 operations on one leg, and then her other leg was going. And I had to make the decision that I couldn't keep her on cage rest for the rest of her days. She was such a bouncy little thing. And this is the thing I think we've got to think about as well, as their health issues. Because the spaying, thank goodness, is now, most of the people are now stopping that and letting you spay your dog when you get them home. At the relative time when they need, once they've developed and fully grown. And that can make a huge difference. But the lack of decent food and everything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Just the poor start in life.
It's a poor start, so that can make a big difference as well. And I'll come on to Barry shortly. So after I did this, I got highly involved again with some trainers over in Romania, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I love this slide. I love this concept. I love this piece. Definitely.
Yeah, and it was one of the ladies that actually worked in the shelter, worked for this gentleman, and they're now married now and they have a little kid. It's really, really nice. And he was trying to push positive reinforcement. He was trying to push all this, which was a really, really difficult thing to push in Romania.
Even just the education as well about, dogs in general. I think
the beliefs around dogs is horrendous. They're very, very backward. And I don't mean that nastily. No. When I traveled the country, that was something that amazed me. You go into some of these beautiful, beautiful cities like Brasov and things, and their designer clothes and shops and all the rest of it, spotless. Absolutely. You would think you were in the middle of any huge cities anywhere in Europe. And then you drive 5 minutes down the road and there was horses and carts getting pulled along with candles on the side and dogs chained up outside. So it was like really much, I don't know what you call it, a culture clash. Very much so. And the majority of the people aren't the ones that are in these big cities. These are, the majority of stray dogs and things come from ordinary people. So we got in touch with them. We decided, I said, right, I'm going to come over. So we organised a workshop, a weekend workshop in Romania. And off I went. That was some journey. And I know how the dogs felt. So I had to travel from Cumbria up to Scotland to get a plane from Scotland down to London to get a plane from London over to. It's not
Oh
easy.
my word.
Yeah, it's not easy over here.
No.
And I spent a week over there in this gentleman has his own training area, and he does boarding and he does things like, and he rescues as well. So we set up this fantastic workshop for local people with their own dogs. So not just normal people who wanted a different way to teach the dogs. And that's the way to get it out, I think, is not by telling them what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But show them a different method.
Absolutely. And I love that, you know, education at source, that, you know, that is the way forward.
It's that ripple, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's that ripple. So we actually had such, and it went on to, there's the picture there, it went on the national news over there.
Awesome.
So that was amazing to have. I didn't have a clue what they were saying, but they could have been saying anything. But what an impact it made, and it was absolutely fantastic. I loved every minute of it, and I got invited back. But of course, what happened? COVID struck, so that's been knocked on the head. But the gentleman is doing amazingly. He's got a lot of stuff online now, and we're going to do like a Zoom lesson from me to them over there in January, which is going to be really fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Just to keep it going, because it's not, I'm not boasting, but over in Romania, if you mention someone from the UK is coming to do such and such, it sends ripples.
Okay.
You know, we're supposed to be woo, the best things to spread. And I'm not perfect in any way, but I do everything positively, and and it's just shown them. So I'm really looking forward to that in January. That'll be
cool.
That'll be amazing.
I think it is important to, like you say, to keep that going.
Yeah, because it's going to spread. It is literally going to spread. And he's on his group. He's got over 5,000 people on it. That's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot of people.
Yeah,
for sure. That's the dog camp. So that was an experience. I loved that. That was absolutely fantastic.
Amazing.
And so this is a little bit about my lifestyle. So we've got Roma there that came over, and that was her first day in the house.
Yeah.
Top picture there. It's tiny little, she's not that tiny now. And the little white one there to the next to it, that's Barry.
Oh, gorgeous.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Barry came from the same shelter that Roma came from.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I knew that Juno was she was poorly, she really bad, but you can see her in the picture with Barry at the bottom.
Yeah.
She had really, really bad. Her legs were just done, actually, bless her. I thought, right, I'm a dog. I need a dog. And it sounds really weird because it sounds very selfish. But I need a dog, and I want one that is going to be fine, it's going to be healthy, it's going to be okay, that can do the stuff that I want to do and go out and educate people with him and use him in the classes and just prove what these Romanian dogs can do.
Yeah.
Okay. So Barry there on that middle right picture was what he looked like when he came to me. Bless.
Oh,
he was skin and bone, bless him.
Yeah.
And I met him, the first thing he did was give me a kiss.
Oh.
And that was it.
Bless.
It was just amazing. So Barry is one of the dogs that is one of these dogs that just fitted in. He fitted in. He was so happy, so confident. I've got videos of him and introducing them to the other two, like Juno and Roman. I did it one at a time in the garden, and Roma was being, get out of my garden, get out. And she stood and barked and howled at him, and he went, "What? Do you want to play? Do you want to play? Come on, play!" And it was fun. He's just a clown. Barry is my clown. He is literally unbelievable, and I took him on. He became my demo dog in my classes. Yep. He went on and did his gold good citizens. Just wow. He just wanted to do everything. I wanted everything. So of course, poor Juno we had to say goodbye to Juno.
Yeah.
So we just had Barry and Roma. Then Barry developed knee problems.
Oh no.
Okay. So he needed a huge big op on his back knee. And the vet at the time said his bones are like butter.
Oh.
Okay. So it ended up being plated and all sorts. So the simple operation it was going to have ended up having to have his legs completely plated.
So I think
I
again that's what we were talking about just now.
yeah,
It is,
lack of food.
whilst it isn't the case for all of them, I'm not saying they all come over and they've all got health issues at all, because I've got one here, 6 years he's been here, and he's never been to the vets.
Yeah, well, Roma's the same. Roma has never been.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Roma's never been to the vet. Roma's never ailed anything. She's never ailed anything. So I think I've just been unlucky, but lucky for Barry that he was here, because I helped, he got the care. So that was Barry out of commission. So we just had Barry and Roma, and then I thought, I'm going to have to stop this. Barry is a Myrotic shepherd, or a shepherd cross. Roma is an Anatolian shepherd. I didn't know anything about these breeds. I honestly did. And they're both guardian dogs. They're guardian, that's what they're bred for. So they've got a bit of them in their DNA.
Yep.
And because Barry was so wow, I said I'm going to look out for something similar to Barry, because that personality and that character is going to be spot on. But I'm going to get a puppy. Okay, and so I'm going to start from the 4-month-old upwards, and use her as part of my demos and things like that, and let her grow and use her story as part of my life and her story. So little Xena arrived, which is the black and white one.
The little face in the middle.
That one in the middle. She came over. And it sounds so nice. I seem to be so unlucky, but she came over with a cough.
Oh, no.
She shouldn't have travelled, but she came over with a cough.
Yeah.
So I had to, again, all my plans of introductions went out the window because I had to isolate her.
Yeah.
She couldn't meet my dogs at all while she was coughing. So that all went out the window. But she recovered in a few weeks' time. So it was good for the dogs, actually, because she wasn't in their faces, because she was quite a different character again.
Yeah.
And bless her, she was in lockdown. So she was through the year of lockdown. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So she wasn't getting the same introductions and things as my other two dogs.
No.
She was another little puppy, as again at 4 months old, would jump at any sound. She would literally be really panicky. She was so confident and happy in her own situation, her own home. But if you took her out of it, whoa, she was really nervous. So I worked really, really hard getting her used to things that were going wrong round about and any noises. And she actually did really, really well.
Yeah.
But didn't progress as quickly as because of COVID and things and all the restrictions. She didn't progress as quickly as I would have gone through the steps.
Yeah.
But she, bless her, she developed she went in to get spayed because she was over a year old, and I thought, right, and she was huge. She was a really big girl. Could never put any weight on her. I could never fatten her up. She was always very, very lean. And that was a bit of a concern, but I thought, well, once she's spayed, usually that'll help, then she'll put on a wee bit of weight. But she went in to get spayed and developed complications.
Oh no.
And passed away 3 days later.
Oh no.
So that was the beginning of March.
Yeah.
This year, which was really, really sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, my life with mummy dogs has been a bit of a roller coaster. But I wouldn't have it any other way. No. Honestly.
And you can't know. And like I say, whilst yes, these dogs can tend to be predisposed to, to potential health problems because of the poor start in life. We have those dogs in this country too. Exactly. And even the best bred dogs still have health problems. In fact, a lot of the purebred dogs do have a lot of health problems.
Yes.
So I don't think it's not something that's specific to these dogs. Yes,
definitely not. And when I teach classes, when I do classes and I work with anxious nervous dogs, these are all, the majority of them are all English bred dogs. Yeah. They all have the same issues as my dogs from Romania had.
Exactly.
The same issues, the same problems. And this is why it's relevant, specializing in nervous dogs. It doesn't necessarily have to be rescue dogs.
No.
And I'm seeing 4-month-old puppies come into my classes that are really, really anxious and nervous.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. Because dogs, no matter where they come from, show the same behaviors.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's important, again, just to mention for people to be aware that just because there is it's that whole nature nurture debate thing, isn't it? It's not one or the other. It's not all about the dog. It's not all about how you raise them. Yes, genetics plays a part. Yes, the way you raise them plays a part. It's a package thing.
It's a huge package.
Yeah, exactly. It's never one thing or the other.
No.
Yes, you could have a dog who who is predisposed to be anxious, nervous, fearful for whatever reason, for because of the mother or where they were born or whatever. That dog could go into the right kind of nurturing home and end up being more confident than a dog who started off confident and goes into not such a nurturing home, if you like.
And I think it's quite good not to think about where they came from, or the reasons why. Just deal with what's going on at the moment.
See the dog in front of you. Definitely see the dog in front of you.
And that's what I've done with all my Romy dogs. I get it out of my head, because you see a lot of people going on about, oh, it's a rescue, it's a rescue. Actually, no, it's just a dog that's anxious and nervous. Don't keep labeling. As you said, just deal with the dog that's in front of you. It can be any dog. It can be a dog that isn't rescued. It's a dog that you brought home at 8 weeks old. Doesn't have to be rescued. So yeah, I would do it all again. even though I've had so many issues with it health wise. But Roma, as I say, Roma has been here 8 years and she hasn't ailed a thing. She honestly hasn't ailed a thing. She's the most gorgeous dog out. She just doesn't do the same thing. She's not. Anatolians are brilliant in the sense that I'm not going to do that. Yeah, they're absolutely fantastic. And that's a generation thing as well, because for generations they had to be independent.
I was going to say that's the guardian breed thing, isn't it? They're designed to think for themselves. They're designed to be able to be independent, and they don't have to be micromanaged and told what to do every 5 seconds.
No, she just gets on with it. Yeah, but she is brilliant. I can't let her off lead ever, because she'll still have that tendency to bolt if she hears a noise. That frightens her. And I mean, when I say bolt, I mean she will just run and run.
Blind panic run,
and go whatever. And it's too much of a risk to take that. But I'm aware of that, and that's a good thing. That I know that she'll do that.
Yeah, but she has setting her up right for that. It's not that she's missing out on any kind of life. You are just setting her up right to keep her safe, and that's the priority. And then it's a case of, right, well, this is the safety element I have to put in place for this dog. So what else can I add in to make sure she does have a full life that fits her needs and her emotional well-being and her physical well-being? And then you pad that out in whatever way you need to.
And people will say to me, well, she's never off. That's not very fair. She's never off her lead. And I say, actually, excuse me, it is very fair. That's the fairest thing I can do for her. She's enjoying life and she's living it to the full. So I think people can easily criticize, don't they? But we're keeping our dogs safe as much as we can, because that's what it's all about. But
it's important to acknowledge that, and add in whatever needs to be added in for that particular dog's lifestyle. I mean, a lot of the large guardian breeds, probably not so much the Anatolians, but I know a lot of the Meoritic mixes, the Carpathians, they're actually quite lazy.
Barry is the same. He's a mile.
And survey their domain. So even just taking them outside to some nice high spot, getting out a blanket, sit down and just watch the world go by. They love all that.
They love it. Absolutely.
About understanding who your dog is, and then obviously being able to provide them with what works for them as in terms of their characteristics, their instincts, their traits, what they love to do. My boy would sit outside and watch the world go by all day long.
I'm just going to turn you around.
Oh.
She was actually just having. Can you see Barry up there?
Yes, I can. Hello, Barry. I love that name.
Now that's what we were talking about just now. There's Roma. I don't know if you can see her. She's surveying. She's surveying the garden.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what she does. As you're just talking about, which made me sit around. She will stand there or lie in her bed with her head just sort of. What's happening out there? I'm watching. I'm guarding.
Yep, just watching, keeping an eye on what's going on out there.
Keeping an eye on the dogs around there. So
fantastic.
And you've got to think about what they could have been as well, because I haven't got DNA done, but I know looking at her body shape and her markings, and she's definitely got Anatolian in there. No, she definitely has. And Barry is definitely a Mayo.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice to know, have a rough idea of what's in them,
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
their genetics,
Yeah.
because it helps me understand them a little bit better, but it's not the be all and end all.
No, and I think it's definitely not the be all and end all, because then again, even just putting those kind of labels on can make you look at the dog differently.
Yes, very much.
You know, whatever. If I know a lot of people do like to have DNA tests done, it's not something I'm particularly interested
No,
in.
I haven't done it.
But I know a lot of people, they're like, well, I want to know what's, you know, are they hugely accurate? I don't know. But also I think, again, it can make you change the way you interact with that dog, because you perceive them, they might be behaving a different way because of this part of them or that part of them.
Yeah.
Which, at the end of the day, again, even if you take a purebred, you know, you can have two very different purebred German Shepherds.
Yes.
Just because they're a German Shepherd doesn't necessarily mean that you do, you know, you handle them or interact with them or have a relationship with them in this way, because they're all very, very individual. And I think it's
and I know with the Anatolians, they have they're classed as, you know, this independent thinker. They'll never do recall ever, because Anatolians just don't do recall. Okay? Yes, they do. But if I'd listened
it's on their terms, though.
Yeah, if I'd listened to that and thought, well, I'm not even going to bother trying because they don't do it. Oh yeah, why will I bother? And if I'd listened to the sort of things you read, I wouldn't have bothered. Yeah, but I did bother, and she's really quite good at coming back.
Yeah, no, it's definitely important to you know, to see your dog as an individual for who they are.
Yeah,
despite, you know, what they may be, you know, what there may be in there. It's important to just see, you know, take a step back and say, well, you know, what makes up this dog I have? What do they love to do? What do they hate to do? What bothers them? What lights them up? I love that. I just, like, you know, I encourage all my clients, my coaching group people, my members, to just take a step back and, you know, what lights your dog up? And then how can you build that into more of that into their life? Because I think that's at the, you know, for me personally, that's what life is about. It's like, what things light you up? How can you get more of it in your life?
Yeah. and I laugh at myself as a dog trainer, because I think, you know, I'm laughing at the minute because I've got a television company coming to film me on Friday.
Ooh. I
know it's a bit scary. It's very sudden and very sorted. My dog's just eating an envelope. Thank you, Barry. You can stop chewing the envelope. Barry dog. And I'm laughing. I'm thinking they come into my house and my dogs are going to be really, really badly behaved.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm saying to myself, is, you know, it's a good, but this is what makes me laugh. You know, people expect you to have the best behaved. I don't have the best behaved dogs. I don't. But my dogs are, they know, they've got boundaries. They know where things are. They know that they've got to, you know, they've got to follow certain rules, because that's what life is. At times we need to have certain rules in place. But they would just be so happy to see these people coming. Yeah. They'll be jumping all over them. They're going I'm sort of thinking, yeah, dog trainer, yeah, right, yeah.
But that in itself for a Mayo mix is a good thing.
It is, yeah. You know, actually, my two dogs, that considering what they are very people friendly. Yeah, actually, which is really, and
again, that like just going back to what we were saying before about the whole label stuff. You know, I've got a Mayo. He's not going to like any strangers. Yeah, he's a Mayo, or he's a Mayo mix. Yeah. He's not going to like any strangers. But like you say, it doesn't always work that way.
Oh, mine love people, and they're quite happy to go and sit up beside them and lick their faces and you know, stuff like that. So yeah, you've just got to be really careful not to put that label on. Yeah,
and just it's always worth understanding the potentials, but definitely from a point of view of how you live with that dog and the relationship you build with them, as well as obviously, you know, any training that may come into play. But for me, it's all about the relationship, and that just life stuff. Yeah. I think it's really valuable to remember to just see the dog in front of you for who they are. And that's your starting point, and have an awareness of everything else, because it, you know, it could be a factor, but it could. And it's been open to things that change as well, because they can change daily. Yeah, definitely. You know? And it's been aware of that and saying to yourself, right, okay, what can I do today that's happened? Yeah, and it's been aware of the changes, isn't it? And then it's just, yeah, like, and again, I suppose it's very much like us in life. You know, we don't go through life in this euphoric equilibrium of happiness. Life's like this. Sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's shit. Sometimes, for days. Yeah, exactly. And you know, our dogs are the same. People expect often expect our dogs to just get up and be the same every day, and they're not. Especially not these dogs. I find that more so even than, British dogs I've lived with over the years. I find these dogs are very much more like us in terms of how they are affected by everything
Emotionals.
world around them.
Yeah.
And they definitely have, I will say, my word, you're having a tough day today.
Yeah.
My boy.
Yeah. And I think they're sensitive, very sensitive to change, very sensitive to change, more so than we are. And they're sensitive to us.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're having a bad day, they're having a bad day.
For sure. And stuff that goes on in the house as well. People will say to me, oh, my dog's behaving really weirdly or doing this weird thing. And I'll just say to them, oh, what else is going on? I say, oh, my son moved out last week. I say, well, that's going to be a factor. And they're like, really? Like, yeah, you've just changed the whole dynamic of the family relationship system. Do you know what I mean? And my lad, as we were talking just before we came on here, my border collie's been really, really poorly the last couple of days, and it's affected him massively. And I've had to obviously incorporate supporting his emotional well-being as part of the package of supporting her illness, if you like, because he can get really upset about it. And those are the kind of situations that can cause, changes in behaviors. And when he gets anxious in the past, when she's not been well, if I know that I leave him unsupported, if you like, and don't do extra with him to support how he's feeling about what's happening around him, he can have this, like, he'll kind of fly at her because he just doesn't know what to do with all this.
What's wrong with you?
Stop it. It's like, you're making me feel really uncomfortable. I think it's important that people recognize or realize that that is a thing, that is something that and it can last for days. It can last for a long time, can't it? And people don't get that. They say, well, it came out of nowhere. No, it doesn't. It never ever comes out of nowhere. There's always something showing you. There's something. Unless there's some kind of psycho.
Yeah, there's
going on. But very, very rarely. Very rarely.
Very rare. I think I've got one more slide and I can't remember where it was. Oh, there you go.
Oh, Roma and
Barry.
Love them. What a gorgeous cuddle picture.
Yeah, they're very they're quite a weird mix. They tolerate each other.
Yeah,
they're not cuddly.
No,
they don't cuddle in. They don't go and lie together. They tolerate each other.
Yeah,
and it was weird again with dogs, how you expect them to be the same. Whereas Roma and little Juno lay together all the time. They were in the same spot. They cuddled together. They top and tailed. They did everything together.
Yeah.
Whereas Barry and Roma, they will lie together, but they're sort of they're all right. They never really fight, but Roma's quite a rough player. She is quite a rough player, and I've got to be aware of Barry's poorly leg.
Yeah,
and I have to stop it now and again. I have to take control and go, no, you're going to hurt yourself. Stop it. It's like having kids. You'll be crying in a minute. You will. So I do have to be aware of what they're doing, but they are very fond of each other. It's Roma's the matriarch. She's the one that will say, right, enough of that. She's the one that sort of keeps everything cool. And she's very, very. She also looks unhappy, but she's not.
I've got one of those. If he's not running around having a really good time, he's got a smacked ass face.
And she always looks like she's thinking.
Face.
She's a thinking. I class her as my thinking dog, and Roma Barry's my doing dog, because he'll do, and I'll do more, and I'll do this, and I'll do that. Whereas Roma will go, I'm thinking about it.
Yes, that's really funny actually, because I've got the same. My border collie is very much the doing dog, and she's just like, what are we doing? Can we do something? What are we doing?
No.
I don't know, really. Don't know if I feel like it.
I'm thinking about it. Does that mean I've got to smile? It's a bit like someone putting the camera on. So it's an individuality. So I treat both of them completely different.
Definitely, yeah.
Barry will take the while and the real excitement stuff. Roma goes, what are you doing? You just stop it. Barry loves cuddles and kisses, so he'll come up on the couch and he'll cuddle and kiss, and he'll sit there with his head on my knee. If I'm sitting on the couch, he literally puts his paws on, and his paws are huge. Puts his paws on my knees and puts his head down and falls asleep there. Roma comes up now and again, which is funny, and I'm always so honoured. I am so honoured whenever Roma decides to come up. And she'll sit there, and if I stroke her, she'll then paw me to stroke her more. and
Yeah.
she hooks my hand to bring it over, with her claws. And I will do that for hours because for her to ask me to do that,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It
Special.
just makes me smile. It's very special.
Yeah.
So it's having, as we were talking about, each dog is an individual.
Definitely.
So if I roughed and tumbled with Roma and I started doing the same stuff with her and I would just go, whoa, we're not a match anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And it is about that respect within a relationship, isn't it? And again, the same as we do with people. We behave differently with certain types of people, dependent on who they are, how they are, what they like, what they don't like. And it's the same, like you say, it's the same with our dogs. It's
same with our dogs. And it's the fact
every dog is different, every relationship is different.
Yeah, and we've got to get to know them. That's what it's all about, isn't it? If we don't know our dogs, we can't give them that, can we? We can't give them 100%.
No,
definitely
not. That is absolutely amazing, Doreen. Thank you so much for coming along to chat to us today. You shared some really valuable stuff, and I know really interesting stuff for anybody watching. It's been great to meet your dogs, and also to hear about what you've got going on in that education piece for Romania, which I'm really excited. I think that's a fantastic idea to take the education to the source. And actually help the problem on the ground. I think that's really, really cool. So we will share a link to your website in the write-up for this, so that people can find you and find out where you are, find out what you do, and get involved in what you're doing as well, if they want to. I think that's all. I can think of to say, other than fantastic. It's been absolutely wonderful to chat to you and hear all about what you've had going on and your experiences, and I know that it will be really, really valuable for others as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is. And the thing is, you don't think about it as being anything special until you sort of look back.
Yeah, definitely.
Realize what you've gained.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to, as I say, we'll obviously be keeping in touch inside my training program and everything. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you're doing with the stuff, the education stuff in Romania, and how we can maybe, expand on that as well, because I think that's fantastic.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Making a little difference to make a big difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mish. It's been really nice.
You're very welcome, and thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for sharing all the pictures of your wonderful family with everyone. Gorgeous. I love to see all the pictures. Look at them all day long.
I know. They're all different.
Yeah, fantastic. So I look forward to catching up with you soon, Doreen. I will share all the links to all your stuff in the write-up for this podcast, so people can find you. Anyone up in Cumbria with a foreign rescue dog, Doreen is your lady to go to. Look her up and give her a shout if you need help with anything, for sure. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Doreen. I will see you very soon. Take care.
Bye.